Okay, so today I'm going to send you a link to the Padlet in the chat, and I need for you to write every single possible way you can come up with to represent 1/10. So you can draw pictures, you can get a picture off the internet and insert it, you can type it out, you can take a picture, like draw a picture and take a picture of it and insert it in. I need for each different way that you come up with to be on a different like bubble. So I'm going to pick on Leyland, for example. So if Leyland comes up with 3 different ways to represent 1/10, she's going to write her name Leyland at the top, and then she's going to put that one way. And then she's going to hit the plus sign and add another bubble and type Leyland at the top and then insert her second way. And then same thing for the third. Okay, any questions so far about what the expectation is? Yes, Samira.
Is there a limit of how many ways we can do it?
Nope. As many ways as you can come up with to represent 1/10.
Okay.
Okay. All right, if there are no more questions, I am going to copy the link and put the link in the chat for you. There you go. Again, it's 1/10. All the ways you can come up with to represent 1/10. All right, I'm already seeing some awesome responses. Keep it up. Make sure you're putting all of your thoughts in different little bubbles. Hey, Jamari. So in the chat, I posted the link to the Padlet. And on the Padlet, you are, I'll post it again just so you can have it. You're posting every single way you can come up with to represent 1/10. Every way you can come up with to represent 1/10. And make sure you're putting your names on there, please, so I know who's participating. I'm seeing some great responses. And good job on my friend who inserted an image. Remember, that's another way that you can represent 1/10 is through pictures. Oh, and guys, I know it's hard to tell when I'm saying it. I'm not saying 1 and 1/10. I'm just saying 1/10. Just 1/10. Oh, and another picture. We got several pictures. Great. Oh my goodness. I am so excited about all of these responses. I think this class has seriously given me the best responses or the widest variety. This is awesome. I'm going to count down from 10 for you to finish inserting whatever you're working on at this point. And then we'll take a look together as a whole class, okay? So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Oh, we got some interesting things that we got posted. Okay, I'm going to share my screen so you can look at all of it while being on Zoom so you're not having to navigate between the two. Make it easier for you. So if I could have my friends come back to Zoom because I have the Padlet on my screen. Great job. Y'all did wonderful. So I'm going to go through and kind of highlight some of the responses that you came up with. You did, I can't tell you how awesome. Okay, so right here, Jacaden said 10/100ths. So that can be simplified into 1/10. Excellent job. Nellie wrote like the decimal form of the same fraction that Jacaden wrote. So that's 10/100ths. And we know that can be simplified into 1/10. Great. And then Mackenzie also wrote a fraction, 1/1000ths, that can also be simplified to 1/10. Samira did the same thing. And then there was another one. I think Maeve wrote 2/20ths. I'm not seeing it on here, but I did see that at one point. That can also be simplified to 1/10. We have got, oh my gosh, there's just so much to look at, y'all. And then Haley down here wrote it out in words, which is awesome. Thank you for thinking about our lesson yesterday about using word form. And then we have our decimal form of 0.1 to represent 1/10. Jamari thought about money. And so Jamari said like $0.10 would be 1/10, which is amazing. Cullen down here came up with 1 times 1/10, which is absolutely true. Anything times 1 is itself. So that would give us 1/10. Josiah put in this amazing hand-drawn picture right here that shows like a tens rod with one piece of that colored in, 1/10. We have some more images written out like 1/10, this fraction over here. Like guys, oh, and we have another multiplication thing up here that we learned about the powers of 10. So Cullen was going overboard over here. But man, you guys, you did amazing. So I want you to think about all these different ways that you wrote out 1/10, and I want you to kind of put it in the back of your head for what we're going to do later today. All right, so keep that in the back of your head that there are lots of different ways to represent the decimal or the fraction, whichever way you want to put it, 1/10. So give yourselves a pat on the back. That was amazing. Yeah, you deserve it. Okay, so today we're going to actually be working with expanded form. And I know you did expanded form last year in 4th grade, and you used whole numbers for it. So let's dig back in our brains back to 4th grade and see what we can pull out about expanded form. If you could raise your blue hand, if you have like any little piece that you think you remember, or if you want to type in the chat any little piece that you remember about expanded form, go ahead and start doing that so we can have a conversation about what we think expanded form means. Okay, so right now I only have one hand raised, so thank you, Laylin. I'm gonna hold off and I want you to hold on to your thought. I'm gonna give a little bit more explanation and see if we can get some more people on the same track, okay? So I like to think about a balloon whenever we talk about expanded form. So like you have your normal balloon, like when it comes straight out the package, it's never been blown up. It's that little floppy piece of balloon. So whenever we put air and blow air into that balloon, it expands and gets bigger. So it's still a balloon. It didn't change. it just looks different and got bigger. So the same thing with our numbers when we do them in expanded form. Whenever we put a number in expanded form, we stretch it way out using place value, and it gets a lot bigger, but the number itself still has the same value. So it actually didn't change, just the way it looks changed. Just like that balloon is still a balloon, it looks different. So the same thing with our numbers. Oh, okay. I have some friends that are starting to remember in the chat. So in the chat, Nellie showed me that she knows you have to put plus signs between each of the numbers in expanded form. And then Cullen showed me that he understands that we need to break it down by place value. And we take each digit from the place value and separate it with those plus signs that Nellie was talking about. Excellent job. Is there anything else people would like to add on about expanded form? Go ahead, Genesis. What else do you remember?
I remember that we had to write it out.
Yes, you have to write it out. Excellent. And she gave me an example in the chat. She took the number 236 and said 200 plus 30 plus 6. Great job. All right. Is there any new information that you would like to add, Leyland? Nope. Okay. And any new information you would like to add, Samira?
Yes.
Okay.
The number gets bigger every time when it's multiplied. So it expands.
Okay. So yes. Yes, that's true. We won't really be multiplying. Well, we will multiply some today, and I'll get into that. Great.
And when it's divided by, it decreases.
Okay, so I think you're thinking about our powers of 10 and moving up and down the place value chart, and that's absolutely true. We're going to be working with something a little bit different today, but good remembering. All right, friends, so we're going to do a practice with expanded form using just like a whole number to help us remember from 4th grade, and then we'll get into the decimal part, which is the 5th grade. That can get a little bit more complicated, but not terrible. I don't know where I put my markers. Okay, I'm back. So let's take the number. Let me have a friend come up with a number, and it needs to be in the up to the thousands. Asia, can you give me a number? And it needs to be in the thousands place.
3,203.
Sweet. 3,203. Great. I love that number. So I'm going to go ahead and break this down. I'm going to draw my lines for my place value chart. I know I have it up here, but it's a little bit too big for our screen. So this is my ones, my tens, my hundos, and my thousands. Okay, so I'm going to point to each digit, and I'm going to need you to tell me the value of that digit. And I know this might be stuff you already remember from last year, and that's okay. Remember, we start with what we know, and then we grow. All right, can I have Rebecca, would you mind telling me what is the value of this digit 3 in the thousands place? How much is it worth?
3,000.
Yes, ma'am, you got it, 3,000. So I'm gonna write that out there. Okay, how about this 2 in the hundreds place, Jacaden? How much is that worth? Hey, Jacaden, how much is this 2 in the hundreds place worth? All right, Lee, how much is this 2 in the hundreds place worth?
$200.
Thanks, Jacaden. Awesome. Yes, it's worth 200. Okay, and then I need to put a plus sign in between them. And then I'm going to say, how much is this 0 worth? How much is this 0 worth, Samira?
The 0 is worth 1 0.
It's worth 0. It's worth nothing. Big nothing. All right, and then how much is my 3 worth in the ones place, Jamari?
It's worth 1.
It's in the ones
3.
place. I think I cut you off. I'm sorry. How much did you say this 3 is worth?
1.
3 ones. Yep, you got it. So we'll write it as 3. 3 ones right there. And then we put our plus signs in between. Okay, so right now I have this number written out in an expanded form, and it says 3,000 plus 200 plus 0 plus 3. So right now I want to call our attention to this right here, this 0. Asia picked the perfect example for us. I want you to nod your heads to answer this question. So you're going to either do yes or you're going to do no. Don't do it yet because you don't know the question. All right. Do we have to put a 0 in our expanded form? Yes or no? Do we put a 0 when we are writing out expanded form? Oh, I'm seeing some yeses and some nos. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and clear it up right now because this is one of those things that we always forget or get confused about. So it's perfectly okay if you're confused now because I'm going to teach you or remind you. Either way. Let me ask you this. Does this 0 have any value? No, it's not worth anything. So when I put this 0 here, does this tell me how many tens I have? So it's representing the tens place, but I have no idea. If I just wrote a 0, I don't know what, like, it's not representing anything. I don't have any tens, so it doesn't teach me anything. It doesn't show me anything. So I could literally take this 0 out and I would still have 3,203. Even with it there, I have 3,203. So there's absolutely no reason for me to have this 0 here because it does not give me any value. So whenever we write numbers out in expanded form, we don't include the zeros. If you're like showing your work, you can put it in there in your place value chart. But otherwise, we don't have a 0 in our expanded form because it ain't worth nothing. Okay, now we're going to get to the more complicated things with decimals. So we're going to write decimals in expanded form. Oh, I have several people that have their hands raised. So I want you to take a second, check your hand. If you have a question, keep it up. If not, put it down. All right, Samira.
Even though if 0 meant anything, I'm thinking why is because if you have a 0 and a 0 next to each other, that will look weird and it might confuse you.
Yeah, that's very true. It might confuse you. Maeve said I'm discriminating against zeros. You're right. I say they ain't worth nothing. They ain't worth my time. Moving on. Okay, now we're gonna have, I'm moving to the lower end of my place value chart over here. So I have my tens and I have my ones, and then I have my tenths, and I have my hundredths, and I have my thousandths, because I'm in the decimals, and we have THS on the end of everything. So I'm gonna take the number, I'm just gonna start with an easy one. Let's say we have 3 and 8/10. So I'm going to put a 3 in my ones place. I have my decimal right there. And then I'm going to have 8/10. So, last thing. Sorry, I forgot. The other way that we learned how to write expanded form looked like this. So this is 3,000. We could write it as 3 times 1,000. And then this is 200. We could write it as 2 times 100. and put those plus signs in between. This is 3 times 1 because it's in the ones place. Is that kind of ringing a bell? Kind of remember that a little bit from last year? You worked with it a little bit. So just remember, the 3 is in the thousands place, so you do 3 times 1,000. The 2 is in the hundreds place, so you do 2 times 100, and so on. Okay, and moving back. We're back. Okay, so 3 and 8/10. So let's do the exact same thing we just did. What's the value of the 3 in the ones place, Fumi?
Excuse me, you kind of glitched on my screen. What was the question?
What is the value of the 3 in the ones place?
3?
Yeah, not a trick question. It's worth 3. Okay, now moving on to this 8 in the 10th place. All right, how much is this 8 worth in the 10th place? What do you think, Josiah? How much is this 8 worth in the 10th place? Not a trick question, Josiah.
I'm thinking something else.
How much is it worth? If the 3 in the ones place is worth 3 ones, then an 8 in the 10th place is?
It would be worth 8/10.
Exactly, yes, told you.
Else.
I figured your brain was going somewhere else with that one. I knew you knew it. Okay, so I could just write it as 8/10. Just like that. So 3 plus 8/10. That's my decimal in expanded form. I just expanded it a little bit. Okay, but you remember at the beginning where you wrote out 1/10 in all those different ways? You want to dig that out from the back of your head? So when we do expanded form with decimals, we have a couple of different ways that we can write the decimal in expanded form. So I'm going to show you, but it's stuff you already knew because you already told me. So another way I could write it is saying 3 plus, and then do the fraction 8/10. So that's another way. And then I could also do 3 times 1, because it's in the ones place, plus 8 times 1/10, because it's in the 10th place. And then I have one more. We're getting crazy over here. We can do 3 times 1, because it's in the ones place, plus 8 times 1/10 as a fraction. So we have 4 different ways that we can represent a decimal in expanded form. But basically, we're just looking at the different ways that we can represent a decimal or a fraction, that piece of a number. So I know I did a lot, so I'm going to pause. Jamari, do you have a question, sweetie?
No.
No? Okay. All right, Samira, your hand is raised. Do you have a question? Okay. Do we have any questions so far? Are we ready to keep moving and keep learning a little more? Okay, I'm seeing that. I think we're ready to just keep taking in some more and learning. That's awesome. All right, I'm going to erase this, and we're going to do another number, and I'm going to ask for your help to help me write it in expanded form. Okay, so we're going to do the number 36 and 4/10. 36 and 4/10. All right, I'm going to start calling on people to help me with the values. So this 3 in the tens place. Jacaden, what's this 3 in the tens place worth, my friend? Jacaden, you're on mute, sweetheart. Can you unmute yourself to let us know what this 3 in the tens place is worth?
What did you say?
Can you tell us what this 3 and the tens place is worth?
30.
Yeah, exactly. Great. 30. And then I'm gonna do my plus sign. And then how much is this 6 in the ones place worth, Mackenzie?
Just a single 6.
Yes, ma'am, you got it. Just 6. And then I'm gonna put my plus sign. All right, now I'm in my 4/10. So whenever you tell me how much this 4/10 is worth, I need you to also explain to me how you want to write it. Okay? So, Nellie, how much is this 4/10 worth?
0 and 4/10.
So you would like me to write a 0, a decimal, and 4/10 like this.
Yes, please.
Excellent. I love it. Okay. Is there
Or you could get rid of the 0 and just put 0.4.
Yes, I absolutely could. We could do it either way. I will leave it like that because that's the original way you gave it to me, but you are correct. We could do it with or without the 0. All right. Is there another way that we could represent 4/10 in expanded form? Colin.
You can put
No.
4 and then put a slash mark and then tenths.
So like a fraction?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. I can do a 4, my fraction bar, and 10. So 4/10 there. So it would look like 30 plus 6 plus the fraction 4/10. Excellent. Okay, what's another way we could represent 4/10? Oh, Nellie, do you want to give it another go?
Another way you could write 4/10 is doing 140.
140. Can you describe that a little bit more for me?
I forgot how to say it. It's like it's a fraction.
Oh, I think Mackenzie put it in the chat. Are you saying like doing 40 hundredths like this?
Yeah. 40 hundredths.
Oh, okay. So yes, that is equivalent to 4/10. But when we're doing expanded form, we have to make sure we're breaking it down into each individual place value. So this is the place value of the hundredths. So you're correct. It has the same value. So thank you for that favorite mistake. That was a great teaching point. Thank you for sharing that. So it represents the same amount, but this is in the place value, the hundredths. So that's not going to work for our expanded form. But yes, thank you for that. Is there another way that we can think of to represent 4/10? So I have just like my decimal 4, I have my fraction 4/10. Let's think about multiplication. Multiplication. How could I multiply to get 4/10? Maeve, would you like to try, please?
Wait, what? Can you ask that again, please?
Yes. So I'm asking for another way to represent 4/10 in expanded form using multiplication.
Hold up, I'm trying to think.
Okay, so while you're thinking about that one, I'll go ahead and represent the tens and the ones with multiplication so we're ready. So for example, I have the 3 in the tens place. So I would do 3 times 10 plus, and then my 6 is in the ones place, so I would do 6 times 1. So then I would do plus, and then Maeve, are you ready now to tell me how we would multiply to represent 4/10?
I'm sorry, I'm struggling a bit.
Okay, so notice how we took the digit and then we multiplied it by the value of that place. So this digit is 3 and it's in the tens place, so we did 3 times 10. The digit is 6 in the ones place, so we did 6 times 1. So the digit here is a 4, so we would do 4 times 1/10. Does that make sense, Maeve?
Okay, yeah, now it does. Now that I have someone explaining it for me, it's a bit easier.
Okay, great. And then we could also write it as 4 times 1/10 as a fraction. Alrighty, guys. We're just gonna do one more problem together and I'm gonna let you go. Okay, so what tends to get confusing is when we go further into our decimals. Once we start getting in the hundredths, in the thousandths place, because we have to remember that we have a 0 as a placeholder. Cullen, please stop. Okay, so we have 0 as a placeholder to make sure that we know exactly what place we're in. So if I had the number 300ths, when I would write that, it would be 0.03, so that my 3 would be in the hundredths place. I would also show it on the grid as the 3 squares shaded in, and then I could also show it as 300ths, the fraction. So if we added on to our number and we had 36 and 43/100ths, remember we would still break this 4 down into the tenths place because we're putting our number in a place value chart and we are representing the value of each digit. And then, so for this 3, we would say this is 0.0300ths. And then what fraction will we put here? Asia, do you know what fraction we could represent 300ths with? Oh, Fumi put something in the chat. Okay, Asia, I'm gonna put a pause on you. I know you're still thinking and processing. That's totally fine. Fumi, I love, you made a favorite mistake for me and it's perfect. I'm so excited about it. So Fumi put that we could use 30/100ths. Okay, so let me ask you something. And again, this is not me making fun of Fumi because she is extremely bright and I love that she's participating, but she just made the most perfect mistake and I couldn't let it go. Okay, so if I were to do, you said 30/100ths as my fraction. When I did, if I were to color in 30/100ths, I would have to color in 3 of those bars or 30 of those squares, right? So 30/100ths would look like this. But our decimal is 300ths. We have it right here. It's 300ths. So when we color it in, it should actually, let's grab in another one, look like this. Because it's 3 out of 100, 300ths. Do we see the difference? So again, perfect mistake. That was amazing. So now, how would you write 300ths as a fraction? If we know it looks like this, because it's literally 3 colored in out of 100, 300ths. Oh my gosh, beautiful, Fumi. Great job. Awesome, Maeve. Yes. So they corrected it, and it's actually just going to be a 3/100, 3 out of 100, or 300ths, because we have all those many ways that we can represent a fraction or a decimal together. Oh, I'm getting some new answers in the chat that we could also multiply too. Thanks, Leland. So you got it. We can say 3 times 1/100th. Or we can say 3 times 1/100th. Whew, that is a lot. The good news is as long as you can recognize what each of these is worth, you are going to be A-okay. Just make sure that whenever you are doing your matching, or so that's your assignment for today, but whenever you're doing expanded form, that you make sure you separate your decimal place values. So we can't just write 43 over 100 because you have both your tenths and your hundredths together. We got to separate it. Okay, so I'm done talking about the lesson for now. So your assignment for today is a one slide Nearpod, and it's matching, and it's the decimals in all their different forms. So you have word form, expanded form, and standard form, and you have to find the two that represent the same decimal or the same fraction. Please make sure you are showing your work. So like on a sheet of paper, I would take it and I would write my place value chart and I would fill it in to see which decimals match up. Okay. Before I let you go, I want to quick tell you about your math benchmark. And then I'll let you go, okay? So your math benchmark is Thursday. So today is Tuesday. We just had our lesson. Tomorrow is Wednesday. You don't have live lessons. You just have your asynchronous work. So Thursday, the next day, is your math benchmark. So the next day together, math benchmark. So your math benchmark is 20 questions, I do believe, or right about 20. So the first half, the first 10 questions, you're going to solve like normal, and you're going to show your work for each and every problem. I want you to number your work. You know, take your sheet of paper, split it up, number it. So I'm going to pick on, let me pick on Nellie. Can I pick on you? Thanks. So let's say that Nellie misses number 6 on the benchmark, and I want to help Nellie. So I'm going to look at Nellie's work, and I'm going to find her number 6 on her paper, and I'm going to see that, oh, she underlined the tens place instead of the tenths place, which is what the problem asks for. So she just accidentally misread it, I think, but she really understands place value. So I can look at your work to help me understand where I can help you, okay? Thanks for letting me pick on you, Nellie. And then the second 10 questions, you can use the calculator. So the calculator will come up on your screen. You've done it before. You still have to show your work. So even if you're typing the problem into the calculator, just write on your sheet of paper like what you typed in the calculator. So I can know if like just what your brain was thinking, okay? You are going to stay in Zoom with your homeroom teacher for math on Thursday, and they are going to be the ones to help get you started on your math benchmark. I will not, but I have prepared a special video for you so you can watch before you take your math benchmark, and I'm going to remind you of all the expectations and tell you a secret. All right, guys, does anyone have any questions about your assignment today or your math benchmark? Okay, Nellie, I see your blue hand is raised. Do you have a question?
For the benchmark, are we going to split screen or just disconnect audio or?
So your teacher will tell you if you need to stay on. Nellie, you're not going to be one of my friends that stay on. So once you get logged onto Zoom, Nellie, you hear me, honey?
What?
So you're going to just get off of Zoom. You won't have to split screen or anything. Okay.
Okay.
Good question. All right, Haley.
It really frustrates me when I try to show my work because like I understand what I'm doing, but I don't understand how to put it into words and show what I'm doing.
Okay, so that's why I try to give as many examples as possible when we're solving work together of what it should look like. So really just try to model it after what you have seen me do. because like the highest level of understanding is being able to show somebody else. So I get sometimes we can do stuff in our head, but for us to like have the best understanding, we need to be able to show it. So if there ever comes like a problem on one of your assignments, you can Zoom in with me or send me an email and say, I don't know how to show my work, and I will be glad to work with you through it, okay? But for the benchmark on Thursday, just give me your absolute best. Like if it's a coordinate grid problem and they say find the 0.36, literally show me this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and then I go up 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? Thanks, Haley. All right, guys, if you do not have questions, you are free to get off and go ahead and get started. If you have questions, stay on with me. All right, yes, sir, Josiah. Oh, never mind. He was just saying bye. Yes, ma'am, Rebecca.